Hello and welcome to the Ultra Films YouTube channel. My name is Dylan, and today we're going to talk about episode 5 of Stranger Things, season 4. I'm going to do this a little bit different today. I'm going to go over kind of like the batches of the people inside of the story instead of going from one story to another story to another story back to the first story, just to see how this works. Hopefully you guys all like it, but let's get going. We're going to start with Hopper, where we find him, or like the first scene is him getting into getting dragged into another cell with Enzo, and when he wakes up, he sees Enzo's there, and he starts like having an argument about trusting Yuri, and like how he believes that he is a curse upon everybody that's like around him, and that he regrets getting Joyce stuck into this, and that like the reason why he thinks he's a curse is because when he was in Vietnam, he worked in the Chemical Corp when he was 18, and like they were making Agent Orange without wearing face masks or any kind of like real protective like equipment at all. And he had found out when he came back that all of his friends were trying to have kids, and none of his kids were able to be born. They were all stillborn, or if they were born, they had a whole bunch of different deformities where like he and his wife ended up having a kid, but she ended up dying of cancer. So like with all of that, and then everything that's happened in Hawkins and all sorts of stuff, he just thinks that he is the curse himself. And again, he regrets getting Joyce involved. And then so that's the only scene that we really see of Hopper in this episode. So then we're going to hop over to Joyce. And Joyce and Murray are like on the plane to Russia. And then Joyce is trying to find a way to get them like to get Yuri's attention, because he's flying the plane to send them to the KGB, and she can't get his attention because he's got his earphones on, and the noise of the plane is too loud. So she sees the peanut butter that he had like opened up and taken some of the previous episodes, and decides that she thinks that she can knock over the peanut butter and break one and use, because they're glass jars of peanut butter, and use the glass to cut the ropes that are tying her and Murray. She is actually able to do that, but Yuri realizes that what she is doing, because one of the jars of peanut butter kind of rolls up to the front of the plane, the cockpit, and hits the metal right next to him, right by his foot, and he kind of feels the vibration. So he looks back and he sees them kind of doing weird stuff. So he gets up and walks back, and he starts like kind of fighting Joyce, and puts her at gunpoint. Murray is able to get himself free and uses his black belt karate awesomeness to disarm Yuri and knock him out. And unfortunately for this, neither of them know how to fly the plane, so the plane starts descending, and they end up crashing the plane in a nearby forest. And then just a little quick thing, like it's kind of a little out of order with all the other stuff, but since we're doing it in things, it's the only real reason to put it here. Owen's group of agents end up going to the Munson trailer and Wayne Munson, and they find that there is what we know is a gate opening up inside of his trailer, and advise him to leave. He was thinking that he was going to clean it and it would just be fine. But from there, we'll move over to the kids in Hopkins, and they're kind of all hanging out at the Wheeler residence, and Max is up on the up at the kitchen table, drawing pictures of the nightmare that she had when she was trapped by Vecna. And Nancy and Dustin examine the drawings, and they're trying to make sense of them. And Max tells the pair that she saw in her what she saw in her experience, like the other bodies on the spires and all sorts of stuff, like the clock. And Nancy comes to the realization that this is like a broken piece of the shattered house that they were all in, or not all in, that they will go to later, the Creel house, because it's a house that's in Hopkins, and she's seen the stained glass front door when she was looking at the. Or she's seen the stained glass like window before, and so she like puts all the pieces together of the house and draws a house. After this, Nancy informs the group of her discovery and then they arrive at the Creel house to investigate the house. And they go inside and they're kind of all looking around, and they accidentally drop Dustin's bag that has the really powerful walkie-talkie in it on the front, like in the front parlor or foyer of the house. And Max is like looking at the grandfather clock, and she's like, that was in her hallucination, and the group kind of like breaks her out of her little thoughts, and they end up just kind of splitting up into a couple groups to go check the rest of the house, and then we'll catch up to the rest of what they do in the next episode. This we're gonna slide over to like Eddie's portion of the episode, and he ends up getting kind of like sick of hanging out in the boathouse, so he ends up walking into Reefer Rick's actual house, and there's two fishermen out on the lake, and they notice him, and they think it's Reefer Rick getting out of jail and heading back to the house, so they end up starting to spread word around the town that Reefer Rick is back at his house. And so that eventually gets to Jason and his little basketball group, because they were at Chrissy's funeral, and Jason's friend Patrick ends up having a hallucination of the clock while at the funeral, and thinks that it should be handled by the cops, but Jason wants to do everything on his own. And he starts pulling out a list of places that he knows, like the Hellfire Club and Eddie in particular have hung out. And one of his other friends is like, oh yeah, and apparently he hangs out at Reefer Rick's, and he writes Reefer Rick's at the bottom of the list. And they go off and start trying to find Eddie, and finally, eventually, do find themselves to Reefer Rick's house. Inside there, they kind of look around his house, and they see that like Eddie had left traces of him being inside the house. He had made himself some macaroni and cheese and just left it in the sink. And so they're kind of looking around the house, and they can't find him anywhere. And Eddie tries to call Dustin, but not Dustin, but the group had left the walkie-talkie in the foyer of the house, and so he's not able to get a hold of them. And Steve's group just realizes that they haven't checked the boathouse, because they're kind of looking outside the windows and they see the boathouse, and they're like, oh, let's go check the boathouse. So Eddie kind of realizes that they're going to be on their way, and it's nighttime at this time that they're checking, so he kind of gets inside of the boat that's in the boathouse and starts paddling out into the lake. Jason and his friend, what was his name? Jason and his friend that was with him at that time uh, end up kind of trying to chase after Eddie into the lake, and at this point, uh, they Jason's friend Patrick ends up having getting attacked by Vecna, so he gets pulled under the water, and like this stops Eddie in his tracks while he was trying to paddle. This stops Jason, and they kind of like start looking around, and then Jason gets thrown out of the water up into the air, and does the same kind of bone cracking, jaw snapping kind of experience that like all of the other victims had besides for Max, because she was able to get away through listening to her favorite song that we had learned is a way to bypass Vecna's whisper. I'll call it whisper. And it ends up killing him and then just dropping him into the lake again. And Eddie just kind of decides that he's booking it now. He has no chance anymore. Like, he maybe had a chance to try to stop people from thinking that he was the killer if all of the information is able to get out. But now that this has happened in front of him another time, he's gone. And so that's kind of the end of that group, and we're going to slide over to the other kids style group that is kind of moving around in California. And so they had just gotten done with their ambush that was happened at their house, and Agent Harmon is like dying, and he starts handing the kids in the back, Will and Mike, a pin, and he's trying to like tell them that they need to have a phone number, and he like hands them a pen, and they're trying to like ask him what the phone number is, and he dies before he's able to give that phone number. But as he's saying that, he also utters the words Nina, which is like the Nina program that is part of, that Elle is part of. And so he ends up dying, and everybody's saying that to Argyle, that he needs to get off the road. And so they kind of get off the road, and they stop at a automobile junkyard, and he's like freaking out, and he thinks that they should call the authorities, and Jonathan tells him, it's okay, man, just kind of calm down, like go into the van and get yourself high again, is basically what he tells him. And Mike, Will, and Jonathan end up deciding that they need to bury Harmon, and after they get done burying him, they are kind of all talking, and Argyle is there. He's like, well, I think we should, like, at least pay our respects and give him a headstone. So he like takes the pizza box, and he asks for the pen that the guys have so he can write unknown hero agent man on it. And Argyle is trying to write on the pen, and the pen doesn't end up working. And Mike's like, why would he give us a pen if he knew that it wasn't going to work when he's trying to give us this phone number? So then he like starts unscrewing it and taking everything out, and he realizes that there's a phone number on a little piece of paper. So they kind of leave there, and they go to find a phone booth on the side of the road, and they call the phone number that's on the piece of paper, and they find out that it's a phone number that actually goes to a computer and not like any actual person. And so they're just kind of like, well, who can we use to find out where this phone number is? And they're like, Susie. So they pull out a map and find the fastest way to get to Salt Lake City, Utah. Um, and that's kind of where we leave those guys. So then we'll go to Elle, and with Elle, she and Owen are kind of driving to the secret facility that is located in Nevada, uh, and they go into the go in there where the Nina Project is, and he's kind of telling her what the Nina Project is, all sorts of stuff, and she's like walking through the doors, and she sees Brenner, or the doctor that was basically doing all the tests and experiments on her. And Brenner explains to her that he knows why she had lost her powers, and that she needs to perform these experiments in the sensory deprivation chamber, or as they call it, the Nina Project, to help recall her childhood memories that she had repressed and locked away. And that is now what is effectively sealing her telekinetic powers. And so she doesn't want to do this, and she tries to run away. But she ends up being sedated by a few of the guards. And she wakes up in the back in Hawkins' lab. And this is like a nightmare for her. She's wearing the standard Hawkins lab gown. Her head is shaven again. And the feelings of being captured again, it like leaves her in despair. And she tries to keep like running through doors, and ends up just right back to the Rainbow Room, where all of the other children are just kind of like hanging out and playing. And a friendly orderly is just kind of telling her these lines over and over again. And then she kind of hears a voice over the intercom saying that she is inside of the Nina Project, and that she needs to, kind of follow the process. And then so she kind of does, and then she gets out of that. Or no, sorry, she doesn't get out of that. She ends up having like almost like a seizure while inside of there. So Owens tells them that she has to get out of the project because it's not safe for her. And so she is on a bed, and Owens is kind of standing over top of her after they get her out, and she like kind of hits him with a defibrillator paddle, and tries to start running for the escape, because she's able to like slip her bands and stuff, and or she was never banded, sorry, but she like hits him with the defibrillator paddle after she wakes up, and tries to run to the exit, and they catch her again because like the elevator is too slow. So as she's kind of getting drawn back, like her powers awaken just a little bit again, and she sends these guards into the ceilings, and Brenner kind of walks back up to her, and he's like, see, like, your trauma is what's giving you access to your powers. And he kind of explains that to her, and is able to get her to come back to the facility again, willingly more this time, and try to start the projects over again. I kind of went through that a little bit fast, but overall I really liked this episode. I think the biggest part of the episode was probably the Eddie port, where like Jason ends up getting like dragged under and dying, and while that is kind of happening, the kids are in Vecna's old house, or we find out again in the next episode that it's like direct opposite of like where they are is where he's being held, and so there's like flashing lights all over in the house and stuff. It's a really interesting episode. I really liked it a lot. And I can't wait for the next two episodes to come out. I have one qualm with how Netflix does these. I really wish they would spread them out over like episodic instead of just putting them out in one bit. Makes it really hard to remember where things are at and all kinds of like because I've already watched them all, like some of the information gets bled into it, and I'm trying to kind of tell you guys what's going on with like each of these episodes and that kind of stuff, and I start thinking of farther episodes in. But I mean, that's my only qualm with how Netflix puts out the episodes. But tell me what you guys thought in the comments below on this format, and if you think it works, if it doesn't work, how we can make this better. Just anything that helps us grow and make a more entertaining video for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.